Good morning. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm James Armijo. I'm a member of the Highgate community here in Providence, and I'm looking forward to our interview today.
Fantastic. Thank you, James. So describe for us why you would like to be on the board of directors for the Master Homeowners Association.
Thanks for having me here today, by the way, as well. And I'm really excited to be on the board. I moved to the community about 2 years ago. My wife and I moved here from Southern California. We were really excited to put down roots in Las Vegas, and we looked at a number of different communities, selected Providence. We liked its mix of being a master plan community, but also having a little bit set aside to itself and having some opportunity for growth as well. I wanted to join the board for a couple of reasons. Number one is, I've noticed that as a community we're young and dynamic and growing. Felt like I could represent that very well for the community. I've also been involved in growing businesses here in Las Vegas. I'm now on my second tech startup here in Vegas, and really excited about bringing new economic opportunities to the valley as well, and particularly into the Northwest area, where I found it's a great area to bring in employees and have people build families. And then lastly is, I'd like to just see us exercise financial prudence as we continue to grow the community and do the best that we can to build out amenities and services.
Fantastic. So what do you see as a priority then for the incoming board of directors?
I think that the main priority is really establishing Providence among all the different competitive communities that there are in the Las Vegas Valley, right? There's so many opportunities for people that are moving both within the community, but also new transplants to the community itself. And I think as we build our brand awareness, we build what makes us unique relative to other opportunities. That gives us the opportunity to grow property values, to certainly make this a destination community for a lot of people. And we'll do that, through a variety of things, making sure we have great amenities, interacting with the city to have good public services, but also just building out our events, our parks, and those kinds of things.
Thanks, James. You already talked about how you work in the tech industry, already a startup, so you have a lot of skills. So maybe you could further explain your skills and your experiences that would be of benefit to the Master Association.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually began my career in a slightly different role as a financial analyst. I ran financial planning analysis for a publicly traded company called 8x8, and in that role I was responsible for managing kind of all of our financial planning activities, including the budget, including reporting out to the board and other activities. I'm a certified financial analyst, so I'm pretty familiar with know my way around an income statement and a balance sheet. And certainly that's how I like to manage my organizations today. In my current role, I work as the Chief Operating Officer for a company called PatientPop, which is a venture capital funded technology company. And so we do exactly that, and in many activities very similar to what you would do in a board. I sit down once a month, I look at our financial reports, I try to make decisions about where we're going to invest capital, who we're going to hire, what types of programs we're going to spend money on, and give direction to people who are a heck of a lot smarter than me, who can then actually go figure out how to actually make it work.
Great. Do you have any long-term or short-term visions for the Master Association?
Yeah, I think in the short run, I'd like to see us continue. I've been very pleased so far with all the services, whether it's Truckin' Tuesdays or some of the other events that have been put on. Certainly, just the general amenities that are available in the community. I think the best thing that we could do is not to break anything that's currently working. And in the short run, we'd like to make sure that we do that. We're going through a difficult transition, right, or at least a challenging transition in terms of having a new board. So working with the management team and everybody else to make sure that we keep that stability in place will be really critical. Long term, I think not to belabor the point, but to go back to making this a community that's well known within the valley, that can help to support property price appreciation over time, and that can certainly be a destination for a lot of the people who are moving into Vegas as well as continuing to be a great place to live for everybody who's here right now.
Thank you. You've already explained some of your definitely strengths in regard to financial understanding. What about strengths and or weaknesses that you have in regard to leadership?
Yeah, great question. So, you always have to be aware of your strengths, and I think that's where I always like to start. When I think about building out teams, I always like to think about how can I find people who have strengths that complement my own weaknesses. To be totally straightforward, I think that the two biggest weaknesses that I have is I'm not a fantastic design or details kind of person. I really like to set visions and understand how parts work together. But if it were to come to establishing what color schemes we needed to use or establishing design guidelines, I'd like to find other people on the board who'd be fantastic at that. And probably the second area where I think I'd like to find some other board members would be in really building out people who are fantastic at sort of building a lot of great community spirit in a real rah-rah kind of way. I tend to be pretty even-keeled, and so sometimes that's both a strength and a weakness. But from a strength standpoint, I think I bring a really unemotional, very analytical approach to making decisions, try to always understand what we have, make decisions based on financials, try to take my personal bias out of it, and at the same time also really understand that there's a relationship between the board, the community, and the management team, and knowing your place, right? Knowing that we're here to provide some guidance and direction. We're not here to tell the management team how to do their job, and we're certainly here to help represent the community and listen to their concerns.
Absolutely. Thank you, James. Briefly describe for us one aspect of the Master Association's programs that you would do differently and why.
Can you repeat that one?
Sure. Briefly describe one aspect of the Master Association's programs that you would do differently and why.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think probably the main thing that I would want to be able to change over time, it wouldn't necessarily be a change, but I think it would be an overall increase would be our community events. I think those are so unique to what we have to offer, to the extent that we could find more ways to bring people in outside of maybe some of the events that we're already doing right now.
Okay. And finally, in the last minute, do you have anything additional that you'd like to add?
Well, thank you so much for having me today. It's been great to have the opportunity to speak with you. Aside from that, what I'd like to say is that I'm no stranger, and probably to the fact that I look a little bit younger than the average person who might be running for the board. And I've been in that position many times in my life. I'll never forget. Today was a kind of a windy day when we walked in here, and it reminded me of coming to this interview. So about 6 years ago, I was in Boston in the middle of a nor'easter. It snowed 24 inches in 24 hours, and we were going to raise our first round of funding for the first company that I founded. I was 24 years old at the time. I walked in there, and the secretary, she said, "Well, I'm surprised you didn't get blown off the bridge coming in here." And I had to laugh. And the reason I had to laugh was it wasn't until I came back to Vegas that I ever saw winds that strong again. And certainly being here in Providence, you get to experience those. But with that said, I do think that it's great to bring that perspective to our community, given that I think that we'll build a great team on the board. I'm really excited not just to do that, but to bring my experience in financial analysis and building organizations and working with management teams to the fray, and look forward to having this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.